Okay, let's start.
Sure. Today is Monday.
9/11.
Yep, Monday, September 11th,
September 11th.
2017.
Yes, this is the anniversary, 16th anniversary of 9/11.
That's correct, and it is about 12:25 in the afternoon. I am Ken Cosentino, and I'm sitting here with Niagara Falls historian, Paul Gromosiak. Paul, are you here of sound mind?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a pretty good memory of things.
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Well,
of course.
Okay, so on record, and that's what we are right now, is on record. Could you just tell me a little bit about your expertise?
Well, I spent most of my life, adult life especially, studying Niagara Falls history. That library was my second home, the local history department. And I accumulated two 4-drawer filing cabinets of notes that I took those years. The 30 years I was a teacher, I would spend my summers doing research and writing. I began writing in 1990. And at first I was hesitant to do it because I didn't know any publishers. But I decided, my friends always said, Paul, you've got to do it. So I did it, and I got involved at Stella Niagara with the Center of Renewal, and I would go there in the summer and give talks to people attending their elder hostel. And it was a delight meeting people from all over the country. And from 1986 to 1990, I worked as a volunteer in the state park by the falls. I would sit down by a tree, put a sign around the tree saying, local historian here to answer your questions. And I loved it. I recorded most of the questions and my answers. So then my friend Brian said, Paul, you've got enough stuff to write a book. I said, no. So I wrote my first book, Soaring Gulls and Bowing Trees, The History of Goat Island and the Three Sisters.
Okay.
And it's out of print now, but my brother did the drawings inside. He was an artist, my late brother John.
Do you remember Three Sisters Island having large megalithic stones?
Oh, God, yes. They were impressive. Huge. And one of them was split so you could walk through it.
And is it true that those stones were coughed up by the river after the last ice age?
Yes.
Okay, so they're about 12,000, give or take, years old.
Yes.
And they're natural river stones that were put there naturally.
Yes.
Okay, so based on the Niagara Reservation Act of 1883, that would make them pretty invaluable and worthy of preservation.
Yes.
Are you aware that those stones are gone and or destroyed today?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Okay.
It's sacrilegious, because the Goat Island and its surroundings to the Native American people was a sacred place where you didn't do anything but bury some dead and pray in their own way. They believed that behind the Horseshoe Falls lived a thunder being, or Haino, who worked for the Creator. And so they came there to worship Haino. And they buried a number of their dead. And from what I understand, all the bones were dug up in the 19th century and put in a museum in Albany, I think.
The bones from Three Sisters Island?
From Goat Island and Three Sisters.
So there were actual bodies on Three Sisters Island?
I think so, yes.
Where do you get that information?
Well, I got it in the library in the local history department from the New York State Historical Society.
Okay, so to your knowledge, there were graves on Three Sisters Island?
Yes.
And they were moved at some point?
Yes.
By New York State?
Who else?
Okay. Was that before or after the Niagara Reservation was created?
That was before.
Okay. So tell me about the offerings that the natives would make.
Well, contrary to Mr. Burke, Edwin Burke of Buffalo, early in the 19th century, who wrote a tourist book saying that the Seneca nation their young woman would sometimes be sacrificed in the spring to Haino. And unfortunately, Mr. Burke lied because there has never been any proof of sacrificing at the falls. So in the 1980s, I and some Native American leaders protested to the state about that legend and asked them to tell them to stop telling it.
Right.
Well, they said no. So I and some Native Americans were planning to cross the Rainbow Bridge protesting, while Regis and Kathy Lee were showing Mr. Glenn talking to them about the Maid of the Mist.
Oh, okay.
So I called to New York and I got a hold of the producer of, what was that show called? Live with Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yeah.
And I said, I told him what we were going to do. And he said, oh my God. And so he called Glenn, and Glenn's son, what's his name? I forgot his name. Well, anyway, he called me and said, well, I hope you're happy. We're not going to tell that legend or anything about the Indians. I said, you didn't do it for me.
Yeah, it's not true anyway.
No, I said, tell the real legend.
Yeah, which is that it was an accident that she was going over the waterfall. She got caught in the rapids,
yes.
And Haino saved her.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And he told her that he would take care of her, but she wanted to go back to the village. But in the meantime, one of Haino's assistants, who was supposedly a real human, not a god, took a look at her and said, ooh. And so they were married.
Okay.
She had a kid. She was back in her village again, upriver. And she was told by Haino before she left it that the baby was not to be touched by anyone but her. Well, in came a clan mother to her house to see the baby, and oh, how cute! And she touched it. And according to the legend, the real legend, a bolt of lightning came down, and Haino took the baby away from her. And he's up there with all the other assistants, doing good for them.
Wow.
And then they say Haino left this area. And they didn't say exactly when, and he went west. But someday he would return. Well, that's just legend, of course. But the real story is interesting, and it shows you that the Native American people were not as wild as we like to portray the Native people in our country. I know growing up, going to see the Westerns, the Native Americans were always put down. They were always the bad guys. Got to get those Indians. And the word Indian is not appropriate. When Christopher Columbus was coming here, he was going to the Indian country.
Hindustan.
Yeah. And that wasn't true.
But he did call the indigenous people of this continent Indios.
Indios, yes.
Yeah.
Which became Indian in English.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me more about the offerings that were made?
Well, they would be fruits and vegetables and all kinds of plants, the corn, and they fill a basket with plants.
The Three Sisters plants.
Yes.
So that's corn, squash, and what's the third one?
Corn, squash, and what?
Is it potatoes?
No.
No?
No.
Beans?
Beans.
Corn, squash, and beans?
Yes.
So that's what they would give offerings of?
Yes.
Okay, and
flowers.
And flowers, right. Do you think they chose the third most remote island because it's the closest you can get to the rapids?
Yes.
So that would be the closest they could get to Haino.
That's the most precious island as far as our history of the Three Sisters, because that's where they went and that's where we like to go. That third island would be close. And then when you look upriver, the rapids are higher than you. Because they're going down from the beginning to the break of the falls about 50 feet. So that's why you can see up to them.
So the Niagara Reservation was created in 1883, paid for in 1885, and it was supposed to be run by a group of commissioners, Niagara commissioners.
Yes, they were commissioners.
How did that end? At what point did the commissioners lose control and the state take control?
Well, that would have been in the 1880s, early 1880s. And the state, of course, decided that they wanted to have a park there.
Okay, so this happened prior to the reservation being created.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So, would you say then that Frederick Olmsted and Thomas V. Welch and Free Niagara, that they bought it hook, line, and sinker?
Well, the state bought it.
Well, the state was looking to make a park.
Yes.
And they were looking to make a preserve.
Profit.
But the Free Niagara movement.
Oh, yeah, we wanted to
the state was looking to make profit.
Yes.
These guys were they were naturalists. They were looking to...
Just to preserve it.
To preserve it. And the state agreed to make a nature preserve.
Yes. They called it Niagara Reservation State Park.
But it wasn't called the state park back then.
Well, now it's called that.
Now it's called that because they added state park to it as if they're both the same entity, but they are not.
No.
What's the difference between the two entities?
Well, a reservation is any land set aside for a specific purpose. In this case, the purpose was preservation of the natural condition.
And so there's to be no commercialization within the boundaries?
No.
There's to be no man-made structures?
No. The only thing that should be allowed is a pathway for people to walk. And when cars started coming out, they decided to make the road for cars. Some people protested because now you're favoring man-made things.
Yeah.
And not the natural condition. I would like to have seen just a nice pathway around the island. Would
you say that the Niagara Falls State Park is then illegally occupying the Niagara Reservation?
Yes.
Would you also say that New York State has violated the Niagara Reservation Act of 1883?
Yes. They promised in that act that forever, that's a strong word, forever they would keep that land natural and not allow any artificial introductions to the land. The only things that they would allow would be a pathway for walking.
And you consider commercialization artificial invasion?
Yes.
So these stores, the eateries, Top of the Falls restaurant, the parking lot, even paving. What about the destruction of trees that were centuries old?
Oh, God, yes. Goat Island and the Three Sisters, at one time, naturalists said this, a number of naturalists said this, had a greater variety, concentration of different species of trees and shrubs than any other place in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was...
Gardner, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was Gardner, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that should be celebrated when tourists come here. Instead of helicopters and Ferris wheels, tell them about that.
Yeah.
Why?
Or even tell them about the natives' legends and take them to the place. Show them the stones, which now you can't.
I'm disappointed a little with the Seneca Nation that they haven't done more to tell their stories.
Right.
Me too. There should be a building attached to the casino or near it where they can go and do that. We had the turtle, which was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the state did not help them as they should have.
So, you haven't been to Three Sisters Island since the
no, because of
construction.
My house, yeah.
Okay, there's a railing when you get to the third island that blocks off most of the island, and there's a viewing platform, and to go beyond the railing is illegal. It's trespassing.
No! Oh my God, they've done that?
Yes, in 2013. Oh. And beyond the railing, they needed to open up a viewing a point of the river, so that's why they took the stones. Boy,
oh boy, oh boy. Well, they're rewriting history.
They're trying to, because...
Natural history.
Yes. And now in the entrance, there's a new roundabout off of what was the Robert Moses. Now it's called the Niagara Scenic Parkway.
Yeah.
That roundabout goes into the park, which now extends to where John B. Daly crosses.
Oh.
So I don't know if they had that land, but now they're claiming it, and there are two big stone walls. And you drive between them. And on the left side it says Niagara Falls State Park. On the right side it says established 1885. Was the Niagara Falls State Park established in 1885?
That's when it was dedicated. but not established.
But it wasn't called a state park until maybe 1970 when
I'd say about then, yes.
the Office of New York State...
It was the Niagara Reservation.
Until the New York State Office of Historic Parks, Recreation, and Historical Preservation took over in 1970.
Some historical preservation. They're hypocrites.
Yes.
They're hypocrites.
I agree. So they say that the Niagara Falls State Park was established in 1885, but in actuality, that's when the Niagara Reservation was paid for.
Yes, and open too.
And open.
Yes.
But the Niagara Reservation was actually created on paper in 1883.
Yes.
So the reservation's older than the state park.
Yes.
If the state park were created in 85.
Yeah.
Was it created in 1885?
As far as I know.
The Niagara Falls State Park.
No, but Niagara Reservation was called at the beginning, just that.
Okay, so it was not supposed to be a state park, and as Thomas V. Welch states in his letters to the Assembly, it should not be anything like a park.
A park is defined as land set aside for recreation.
And what's a reservation?
Land set aside for a purpose, specific purpose. In this case, preservation of the natural condition.
So, then the two cannot be the same thing.
No.
Because the Niagara Falls State Park moniker, as being a state park, is, it defiles the idea of...
Yes, and it allows for lodges and restaurants and whatever. It allows for it by doing that. It makes it legal. And
also, they're taking hundreds of millions, possibly over $1 billion a year profit out of the state park, and next to a city named after the waterfall, which has just gone broke.
Yep.
Okay, so now the state is attempting to blame that on the Seneca Nation, and I'm wondering if, in your opinion, if the Seneca Nation were to obtain the Niagara Reservation and beat out New York State in a case and able to evict them, like a bad tenant who has destroyed the landlord's property.
Yes.
If they promised to return it to the Niagara Reservation, and then the city owners of properties, developers surrounding the casino, then made an agreement to share profit with the Senecas, and everybody wins, because now what was going into the park is now going 5 minutes out of the park downtown.
Yep.
Would you support the Seneca Nation full ownership of the Niagara Reservation, restoring it to what the Niagara Reservation was meant to be?
Yes, I would. Why not? That's how it should be. When I see what's been done, it hurts me. Because people who care like I do, there couldn't have been enough of them around to do anything about it, but it's been done. And Niagara Falls isn't the only place that's been spoiled.
No.
But for me, it's the most important because I love it so much.
Me too. And that's why I'm here today as well.
Yeah.
So,
they sell my books in the souvenir stores on Goat Island.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and then Prospect Point. So they might punish me now. I remember one time the man in charge of all those stores told me, "Don't bite the hand as if it is feeding you." But the truth is more important than I am.
Yeah, the natural world is more powerful than any of us.
Much more than I am.
Yeah.
I'm just representing it.
We're supposed to be wards of a world treasure.
Yes.
And that it should reflect in the community. It should be a wealthy community, because people should be coming to the city of Niagara Falls to visit the waterfall. So there is no man-made structure or convenience that would enhance God's creation.
No.
However, the natives, perhaps 1,000 years ago in this territory, knew that, and so they turned the third island, which I think is called Celia.
Celinda Eliza.
Celinda Eliza.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
You can keep the tray. I see you didn't eat yet. So I'll come back later.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The third island, which is Celinda Eliza.
Yes. Sometimes they add porter because she married one of the porters.
Okay, so just so we know, we're talking about the same island.
Then the little island next to that one is called Little Brother.
Little Brother.
After their younger brother.
Solon?
Solon.
Yeah. But that probably wasn't the island where they made the offerings.
No, it's too dangerous to get there.
So it would have been Celinda Eliza.
Yep.
And these offerings were made to their gods, which makes this a spiritual, or even a religious, it could be argued,
it is.
offering, which means that island is sacred land.
Yep.
And the movement of the bodies was a desecration of a holy place.
And the planting of foreign species of plants is also a desecration.
Which is what they used to put up the railing and remove the stones. They said that we were digging up the invasive species and planting native vegetation.
Oh.
That's what they argue. I could show you all the paperwork here if you're interested. And I'll also show you all of the contradictions in their report that they made, because there's about 20 on every single page of the report.
Wow.
Where they talk about that's Olmsted's vision. Now, Mayor Paul Deister went on the record after Three Sisters Island was already pushed through without the knowledge of the people. The people didn't find out until much later.
Yep.
Niagara Greenway claims that it was made public before the presentation by posting a notice on their website, and because nobody showed up, they figured everybody was in support of it. So they made it knowledge by, putting a sign somewhere that nobody ever visits and not putting any effort into making this presentation open to the public. And the mayor did not fully represent our interests as a city of Niagara Falls.
I got till 1.
Okay, sure. So my point being is that the mayor went on record saying that the renovations done to Three Sisters Island were modernized versions of Frederick Law Olmsted's vision.
Yes.
Do you believe that a modernized version of Frederick Law Olmsted's vision for the Niagara Reservation would include destroying sacred 12,000-year-old stones?
No. It would.
Would a modernized version of Frederick Law Olmsted's vision for the Niagara Reservation include Delaware North presence, commercialization as a tourist trap?
No.
What about the Top of the Falls restaurant on Goat Island?
No.
Parking lot with a toll booth and $10?
No.
How about the removal of trees?
No.
What about loud electronics?
No.
So, in your professional expert opinion as a historian of Niagara Falls, honored by the state and the city of Niagara Falls, what would a modernized version of Frederick Law Olmsted's vision look like, if there is such a thing?
A path for people to walk on around the islands, and that's it. If they have to go to the bathrooms, they can go off the island. There's plenty of bathrooms in the nearby city of Niagara Falls. So it should be a place left alone as much as possible. Maybe a few benches for people to sit on, made of the wood from the area, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because it's not that large a place that we'd have to have everything there.
Mm-hmm.
The things that people like, something to eat, souvenir, that can be in the city. My God, the city needs business.
And it's only a 5-minute walk from any point in the reservation.
Yes. So, what can I say? We made a big mistake. We went in the wrong direction. I would much rather go to Goat Island and the Three Sisters and see what God put there, not us.
Do you believe that as a violation of the Niagara Reservation Act, which the New York State has violated so many times,
yes,
that it's within their duty as a governing entity to relinquish the stewardship of the reservation to the Seneca Nation and do what's right?
Yes.
And do you consent to the use of this recording in court or otherwise in whole or in part for any use that supports the good of our movement to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
To return the reservation back into the hands of
that
those who
would
will
be
preserve it.
beautiful.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I just wish you luck with this project, and I hope I live long enough to see it happen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.